one of the topics that I am frequently asked about, and I believe these topics are still open and not fully solved in 2022, is the question of, can we diagnose pre-MDS states? Is it worse? Can we do anything about it? And I will start with just reminding us that, yes, we already know that MDS is not a sudden disease. It's not an acute disease. It's not one disease. It's actually a bunch of several bone marrow stem cell disorders. And these disorders, almost always, it takes them some time to develop. We, for example, just as an example, published about 2 years ago a paper showing, when we summarized the data of 400 patients, 420 if I remember well, with MDS, and we had their medical records 3-4 years before MDS diagnosis, it could be clear that some decline in hemoglobin, as well as decline in platelet count and decline in white blood cell count, preceded MDS diagnosis. So it's clear that some of these patients, maybe all, maybe most of them, the disease does not occur and is not diagnosed all of a sudden. There is a time of preceding periods before MDS. Now, we are all aware of the status or the states which are designed as ICAS, idiopathic cytopenia of undetermined significance, or CICAS, clonal cytopenia of undetermined significance. I would also like to refer the audience to papers of Luca Malcovati from Pavia, Italy, one published in 2017 in Blood, and another paper, I believe, last year also in Blood. And this paper describe patients, or I should say not patients, but individuals who are diagnosed or recognized or identified as having either ICAS, idiopathic cytopenia of undetermined significance, or some of them are diagnosed as having clonal cytopenia of undetermined significance. There is also publication by David Stinsma and others. And it is clear today that some of these individuals, not all of them, but some of these individuals have already clonal changes. Some of them have already mutations or mutations which are found in myeloid diseases. And some of them eventually develop MDS, not all of them. Now, the story becomes somewhat more complicated because we are well aware of several publications by Ben Ebert group, by Seishi Ogawa group from Japan and others, showing us that many individuals who are considered healthy people, while they are getting older, they tend to develop myeloid mutations, TET2, SRF3V1, SRSF2, and others. Now, most of these healthy individuals never develop myeloid disease, never develop MDS, but some of them do. And once these people, these so-called quote-unquote healthy individuals, have myeloid mutation, they have higher tendency to develop MDS than those who do not have mutations. So if we take all these together, we understand and we know that there are several pre-MDS states, I would call it in a general term, people, individuals who are considered healthy, but might develop and have a greater risk of evolving into MDS in the future than others. Now, very important question. Can we identify these people? Well, currently, there are no clear-cut techniques, but obviously, we are in the process of starting to characterize and identify these people, either by genetic mutations or by other other tools. I suppose that in the next few years, we will see artificial intelligence tools that might help us to identify these people. The second question, which is important, can we do anything once we know that someone is at higher risk to develop MDS in the future? Can we do anything? Can we prevent it, or can we postpone or delay the development? Well, theoretically, yes. Practically, not yet. However, if we compare this field to other fields, let's take, for example, the myeloma field. I am switching for a second. Multiple myeloma is another hematological disease, a hematological malignancy, and we know that all patients with myeloma have before that a period which is called MGUS, monoclonal gammopathy of undetermined significance. Many of them have a period which is called smoldering myeloma, which is myeloma but without evidence of damage to the target organs. So we are facing today several clinical trials and several attempts to identify these patients, which is possible today, and to treat them, and the availability of biological agents which are effective and less toxic allows us to treat these patients with pre-myeloma states and hopefully either prevent myeloma or postpone its development and minimize the target organ damage. So the same paradigm, the same pattern might fit also MDS. So coming back to our field, we know today to identify at least some of these pre-MDS states. And I think it's just a matter of time till we start to try to interfere in these situations and either to postpone or maybe hopefully to prevent the development of MDS, and obviously to prevent target organ damage and maybe to improve quality of life. So it is still, part of it is vision, but to summarize this point, number one, there are several pre-MDS states. Some of them can be identified. We can think about it and we can start design the intervention, which is still a vision, which is still future, which is still experimental, but I think we will see it in the next few years. Once we are able to identify more and more people at higher risk, we will be able to design intervention, and I hope future looks much better because we will be able to detect more people, to detect earlier, and hopefully to interfere and to minimize the long-time damage.